Mike, check 1212. It's the Y2K collector, and do not quit your day job. So I got up this morning and I was looking at a few articles and I was looking at a couple of stories that was just really shining a light on the current state of the video game industry. And I'm not talking about like the video game market as it pertains to buying and reselling video games. I'm talking about the actual video game industry in terms of the companies that produce and make some of the video games that we love today. Now, if you're not aware, there have been massive, and I mean massive layoffs occurring across gaming studios all over the place. Studios, Xbox, Sony, you name it. There are a lot of studios that are laying off a lot of video game developers. And what's even more concerning is that when you look at some of the job postings that some of these gaming studios are putting up, they're looking for developers who have experience working with AI in terms of implementing AI as a part of their work strategy to, I'm assuming, be more productive, to be able to get a lot more done in a lot less time. Now, this is the side of gaming that I don't typically pay a lot of attention to because I'm the type of guy, I'm a simple guy. If it's a good game, give it to me so I can play it. That's my thought process. I never really get into the weeds of, okay, who made the game? What was the development like? Who was the studio that created it? I just figured these games are developed and created by a bunch of really smart guys who are into tech and who understand how to make really engaging pieces of software that you and I, the general public, will then turn around and enjoy. The problem is, I guess, from what I'm seeing and from what I'm reading, is that it's taken, especially when it comes to companies that create AAA games or the more popular games. Usually there's a humongous studio. Sometimes there's, over 200 people, over 100 people that have their hands in the development and creation of one particular game. And the thing about that is that when you start thinking about how long it might take to produce a game, so let's say it takes, let's say it takes a year or 2 years to create a game. And let's say it takes 150 people working together to create that game. And let's just say over the course of the 2 years, each one of those people is paid, even if they're only paid $30,000, for the year. When you start doing the math on that, 30,000 times 150 over the course of 2 years, that's a lot of money that is, that gets sunk into the creation of just one game. And the sad part about it is that a lot of times, once you actually do get the game isn't even complete. You don't have the complete game. You don't have all of the DLC. You can't access all of the cooler features of the game because usually you have to pay more for it. You got to download it, spend money in some type of online store to get full access. You need a code. You need a skin. You need something, right? It's not like back in the day where when you bought a Nintendo DS game, you got the full game. You got to experience the full game in its totality because what they gave to you was the finished product. Whether it was good, whether it was bad, whether it had glitches, whether it didn't have glitches, what you got was the end result, and there was no going back and updating it with patches or anything like that. And you know what? Sometimes it was those glitches that made the game that much more fun to play. I'll give you an example. The other day I was talking about Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and how I used to be undefeated when using Gambit. You know why? Because in almost every Marvel vs. Capcom game, whether it's Marvel vs. Capcom 1 or Marvel vs. Capcom 2, there was a glitch. Like, for instance, in Marvel vs. Capcom 1, there is an infinite air combo, I'm not sure if it's an air combo or a ground combo, but there's an infinite combo that you can do with Iron Man, where once you catch a person, they can't move. They're stuck in that air combo, and as long as you time the moves in that air combo right, you can air combo that person to death because they're held in place by the air combo. That's one glitch that I remember. I remember there was another glitch in Marvel vs. Capcom with, I think, Venom, where if you did his special, the one where he does his Venom web and he catches you in the Venom web, I think that also freezes you. And I think you can do like an infinite combo with Venom as well. If those are still viable, let me know down in the comments. It's been years since I've tried to do any of those combos. But even in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, there was a glitch with Gambit where, usually if you're playing someone in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and they understand how to play, you're going to have your defense on alert. So there was a move with Gambit where if you attacked first, and even if you drained a very little bit amount of energy, there's a glitch where you can get Gambit to fly off the screen and never come back. Now, this won't work if there's no time limit on the rounds, right? Now you're just going to be standing around doing nothing because Gambit won't be there. But if you are playing with timed rounds, that was like a cheat code because you could just use Gambit. Even if the person blocked, you could do a kinetic card, let them block it. And even that smidgen of energy that goes down, that's all you need to do before you go flying off the screen, as long as you don't get hit. And you could just let the time drain out and you would win. Now, is that a cheese or a spam, as they call it today? Yes. But these were glitches that were a part of the game. And you know what? Even though Marvel vs. Capcom had these glitches, we still loved the game because we still got the final product. We still got it for what it is. And now you have these companies, these gaming developers, who are spending millions of dollars creating games that aren't complete and that are not giving the end user the best experience. And this isn't working out neither for the development studios, and it's definitely not working out for the consumer because people are growing tired of having to pay extra for something that they should have gotten in the first place. And so what this all boils down to at the end of the day is what we're seeing now. Massive, massive layoffs. Now, the thing that really catches my eye is the whole AI piece of it. Because it doesn't mean that people aren't still going to create video games. We're still going to make video games. Video games are still going to be created. But I think what we're going to start to see is we're going to start to see where AI steps in and AI starts taking over the development and the processing of these games. Now, what does that ultimately mean for the end user, for you and me? What will it mean? What type of model can we expect when it comes to how we receive our games, how we buy our games, how we experience our games, and how we enjoy our games? Well, what I could easily see happening is I could easily see a situation where we have AI create and develop these games at such a high rate that we no longer need physical releases of these games. And I think what would eventually happen, and this could just be me, someone could let me know down in the comments, but the same way we're phasing out television, like you see how we're phasing out TV, how cable companies like Dish, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, Verizon Fios, Altice, whatever it is, a lot of these TV companies, these legacy companies, are being kind of, retired. And they've been replaced by these more subscription-based models. Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, HBO Max, all of the streaming services, now they're available separately. And I guess the advantage that they give you is that you're able to get exclusive access to certain content. You can watch certain shows whenever you want. You no longer have to wait for it to be aired on TV. You can get instant access. And so a lot of people enjoy that. A lot of the newer generations enjoy what they get from the streaming services. But maybe if you're an old dinosaur like me, where you remember having to flip through channels, perhaps you may still enjoy your cable TV. But what would happen if the gaming industry adapted that model and said, you know what? Now we're going to do everything based on subscription. So every new release required a subscription. Every new PlayStation game, every new Nintendo game required a subscription. And maybe now you're paying $19.99 a year, or $29.99 a year, or $49.99, or $99.99 a year, but it gives you access to Nintendo's full library, but you never actually get to own the game. You just get access to the game while it's available in the library. And then when the game is no longer available, then you don't have access to it anymore. I wonder what that type of model would look like, especially when you incorporate things like AI. Because AI is going to be a fraction of the price as it would cost to hire a development team. And I'm positive AI is going to be able to put out just as good quality in terms of the games. The visual fidelity will be good. And you'll have a lot more options to choose from. The only difference is, like I said, you'll no longer own it. You will just have to pay a subscription fee to be able to access it. I think this is very scary because I remember when I was growing up in the early 90s, one of the things that you always heard was, I want to be a computer developer. I want to work in IT. I want to develop software. Now that's becoming a job that I think people are running from because they see how it's going to be replaced in the very near future. And it's going to have a major impact on the job market, on the economy. But I think it's also going to impact the end user, being you and I, in terms of how we're able to experience games moving forward. Are games going to be better? Will they be more fun? That's yet to be seen. But what we can see and what we do know is the economic impact that's being felt right now. Because as I said, over 7,000 game developers have lost their job since the start of this year. And we're only 2 months in, which to me kind of really speaks gloom and doom for the remainder of 2024. But I could be way off. I don't know everything about this. This is something that I don't typically look into, but I did see an article on it, and I did watch a couple videos on it. So let me know down in the comments what you think. What do you think this means for the industry? What do you think it means for the workers who are losing their jobs? And ultimately, how do you think it's going to impact us, the end user? I'm curious to know your thoughts. So Y2K Collector saying happy Monday. Take it easy.